Let's first start again by looking into the declaration of all these data types, starting with the string. So as we've already seen, string can be declared using single quotes or double quotes. So if you want to declare a variable, say var string, then you can simply put a single quote, and then whatever you write between this becomes the variable, becomes the data. So for example, I'll write hello world. So hello world is the data which is stored in the variable var string. Let's put shift enter. Now if you will write type of this variable, right? Sorry, then its type is a string because we have given it in the single quotes. We can also use double quotes. So for example, rather than writing single quotes, if you would have given the double quotes, the output would remain the same. It will say string is the data type of this variable. Next, let's declare a string list type. So we'll simply say var list, and for that you have to just use the square brackets. So whatever you write within square brackets becomes the list content. So here we are providing the variable list and we are adding 1 2 3 to it, and let's say the same type of this var list. Okay, so as you can see, the type is list and the variable is declared. If you want, you could also given it a string value, for example. So you can have simply written it as say single quotes 1 and then 2 and then 3, right? If you want to print it, then you can simply type var list, or you can also use print, right? So with that, we have declared the list. Now let's declare a tuple. Now as we've already seen, tuple is the immutable version of list. To declare a tuple, we have to use parentheses. So for example, if you write say tuple a, then you have to simply write parentheses and say 1 comma 2 comma 3, and then the tuple will be declared or created, right? So as you can see, I'm pressing tab key because it will autocomplete it, right? So for example, if it has tu and then you simply say tab, then you can see tube a is the variable, right? And then shift a, so you can see 1 2 3 is in the output, right? Now rather than giving 1 2 3, if you would have passed a list, for example, if you would have said tuple and say a is equal to, in parentheses, but say square brackets 1 2 3, what do you think it will create, a list or a tuple? So please note that in such a case, it will not be a tuple, but it would be a list. So I should not write tup A, rather I should say list A, because in this case, it will actually create a list. If you want to see, I can simply say type and then list A. And maybe we can just print it also. So list A, let's see. So list is 1 2 3, and if you want, you can just print its type to see. So the class is list. So please note that though you use parentheses to create a tuple, but if you have provided a list within a parenthesis, then it will not be a tuple but a list that would be created. Similarly, if rather than providing square brackets, say we would have provided the single quotes. So if I say single quotes 1 comma 2 comma 3, so now 1 comma 2 comma 3 is a string, right? And we are providing a string into a parenthesis. So in this case, again, it will not be a list that would be created, but technically a string. Okay, so let's see. We'll just print the type of string, and then I will follow list a, string a, and let's say what gets printed. So you can see now the class is a string and the value is 1 2 3 in single quotes. So if you use parenthesis and you actually happen to pass the argument in a square bracket or in strings, then it will not be a tuple but a list or a string that would be created. If you want to pass this argument, then you have to use the tuple constructor. So if you have to pass the argument 1 2 3, which is a list, and you have to convert it into a tuple, then what you have to do is you have to use a constructor tuple. I'll just copy paste it to save time, and rather than using just parentheses we have to say tuple and done. Now we are going to pass a list which is 1 2 3. Then in this case it will not be a list, but so say I don't know, I'm simply saying variable a and say variable a and just print it, right? In this case we are saying that print the type of variable a where we have used the constructor tuple and passed a list. So let's see what is the class here. So you'll see the class is tuple because we have explicitly, you can say we have typecasted. We will cover that in more detail later, but technically we have, you can say that we have typecasted a list into a tuple, or simply we have used tuple constructor and passed the argument 1 2 3. And this constructor is like for the Java community. If you have worked in Java, you can relate it. But as you can see in this case, if you don't provide the tuple keyword, then what you have is a list. And if you want a list to be provided and be converted to tuple, then use the keyword tuple, right? If instead of passing a list or a string, if we would have given a dictionary as an argument, then a new tuple would have still be formed, but then it would have consisted of all the keys and not the values. But since we have not covered dictionary, so let's defer it for now. But I would request you, once we have covered dictionary, please try that at your end and see what's the output. Okay, now let's see how a dictionary can be created. So we'll create a variable dictionary and say 1. So in order to create a dictionary, you have to give curly braces and then just give comma separated key value pairs. So for example, the key could be a and then say a value could be 1 and then separated by comma, and then another key value pair could be say b and the value could be 2. So now this is a dictionary with two key value pairs, key a with a value 1 and then key b with a value 2. If you want, then you can just use a print statement to print it, dictionary 1. Right, so as you can see, the dictionary is a with value 1 and then b with value 2. In this example, we have given string as the key and the number as the value. You can also do the other way around. So that means you can define numbers also as the key. So for example, I can say key 1 and then I can give a value say a, and then say I can give 2 as the key and the value b. So it's just reverse now. So you can play with it, right? The way, whatever is the business need, based on that you can create the dictionary. Next, let's declare a set. So we will create a variable say set1. Again, the set could be declared using curly braces. However, the difference is, rather than giving a key value pair, we have to just give the values. So for example, I can give values 1 2 3 and then we can simply print print the set1, right? So you can see a set 1 2 3, the set is printed. Just like dictionary, you can try to give it say string values and it will work perfectly fine. So as you can see, rather than number 1, I have replaced that with a string, and it can store both the string numbers in the same manner. So 1 2 and 3. Now here's something to think about, and this may also appear in an interview question. If you give a key value pair in a curly brace, then you know you are creating a dictionary, and if you give just the values, then you know you are creating a set. What would happen, say where I'm simply giving a empty curly brace, right? What do you think it will create? Try it at your end and just put it in the comments, right? Now suppose if you have to create a set from a list. So for example, let's take this. So just like we use tuple keyword, you can also use the set keyword. So you can say set a and then set is the keyword and I'm passing a list here 1 2 3, and then we'll just print it again. So as you can see, it has created this list was actually converted or typed into set. The variable name is set a and the class is set. Okay, so with that we have seen the declaration of all the 5 data types, starting with string, then list, then tuple, then dictionary, and then the set. Next we are going to cover the attribute indexability.